Well, good evening, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana Weather. Thanks for logging on to my latest long range update. Boy, I got a nice treat for you if you like some early shots of spring. Got a little preview headed our way. Now, it's a short lived preview, but hey, we'll take 3 or so days in the 60s, right? Going a little bit more normal after that, but hey, a nice little warm up coming our way. First off, that clipper that moved through today really only affected our southwest Indiana counties here. Most of southern Indiana spared with that. That moves off to the east. High pressure moves in and has large and in charge effects on us later this week. In fact, we're going to stay pretty dry too. There are only some small hints of some rain showing up in the forecast, maybe on Sunday morning or so. That looks to work out of the way, maybe even by the afternoon hours. There's a storm system that starts to roll to our south next week. Big questions on whether that will hit us or not. It looks like it stays to our south at this point, but we will end up seeing sometimes that could trend a little bit more northward. But really, you have to go until about the 27th or so here on the GFS model before you start to hit anything affecting us. So we got a pretty good dry stretch coming up, and a nice little above normal stretch too. If you just take a look at our temperature anomalies this weekend, how much above normal could we be talking about here? Into the browns, well, you're talking 18, maybe 20, 22 or more degrees above normal. So certainly temperatures in the 60s, and that'll be nice. Normal temperature, by the way, right now, normal high is about 46. So, yeah, we could be looking at low to mid 60s for highs. We'll certainly end up taking that. Now, what all is going on? Let's just take a look at our patterns and sort of get this down. Remember, our good old friend, the P&A. And the P&A, when it goes positive, that indicates troughing over us. That indicates cold that could come down. Well, we're staying that way through the most of the rest of the month, but the problem is the other indices aren't cooperating. Arctic oscillation, you need that in the negative if you want that cold air on the move from Canada down to us. It stays positive for the most part, or maybe even just into slightly neutral territory until you head towards the end of the month, and there are some hints here that it could potentially go into the negative again, but we'll take that with a grain of salt. This far out, it's hard to say, but I mean, take a look at this. You notice all these other bubbles, the different colors. These are previous runs of the model, and these are your two previous runs, and you notice by the end of those, you were still firmly in the positive category here. So we will have to see. That's something that is yet to be determined there, but for the time being, no major Arctic outbreaks coming our way. The Arctic oscillation stays in favorable territory for milder weather for us. North Atlantic oscillation again stays in the positive territory as well. That indicates a blocking pattern, which could bottle up that colder weather and send it down over to us if it's negative. Well, it stays positive all throughout the rest of the month, and then right as you head towards the end of the month, again, there are hints that it might go into the negative. But again, take it with a grain of salt because look at the previous two runs here, also firmly in the positive by the end of them. So lots more questions and answers at this point. Even the EPO, the East Pacific Oscillation, positive is an indicator of transient cold at best for us, and it stays positive to neutral through the entire rest of the month. So really some pretty strong signaling here for a milder pattern overall. If we just take a look at the temperature outlook through the rest of the month, that's exactly what you see. Yeah, we didn't make it up to 39 today. We might make it up to the lower 40s here tomorrow. But then the warming trend begins, and I mean, hey, take a look at this. Temperatures hovering near 60 for about 3 days here. We'll take it. Now we fall down after that. The warmer up here is short-lived, but still, that's not bad. 47, 46 is our average high today. By the time you get to March 2nd, 51 is the average high. So we're talking about very seasonable, almost near average temperatures for the rest of the month, the way things look out. Now there are some differences in this. This is the GFS ensembles that I've got here. And the ECMWF, the European model there, is indicating that by about the 25th or so here, a deja vu kind of pattern in the upper levels here of what we had, where we had those snow showers for about 3 days last week. The Euro is wanting to kind of bring that upper level cutoff low back over us, which could give us some cooler weather and a few days of some snow showers again there. The GFS, what's it say? Completely different. So again, you get this idea that the Euro and the GFS just fighting it out. Hints that there could be some cooler weather, but certainly nothing locked in stone. Not very good model agreement at this point. We've also been looking at the polar vortex, and it looks like the polar vortex is going to split into two pieces later on down the month. The GFS keeps wobbling here on the modeling as to exactly what's going to do. There are times whenever the polar vortex pieces split, come down closer to us and give us colder than normal weather. On the latest modeling, it gives Russia colder than normal weather, and it heads over there rather than us. So, again, there are some hints that some things could happen, but certainly nothing definite and locked in stone. Not seeing strong signals of major cold yet. And this is pretty typical, by the way, for an El Nino year. Of course, this has not been a typical El Nino year. There are, I suppose, quote unquote, no typical El Nino years. Every one is a little bit different. But we have been more warm than we have been cold this year, and that is a pretty typical feature that we see during an El Nino pattern. Even whenever we've had these cold snaps, they've been fairly short-lived. We might have a few days of cold before we go back, but that's pretty transient. And even our longer cold snaps, well, they only last 5 or 6, maybe 7 days, and that's not bad overall, especially when you got more milder weather coming your way. And I think that's what we're going to see as we head later on into the month too. If we do, for you snow lovers, get fortunate enough to see a pattern lock in like this, probably very short-lived, where it's only going to be a few days. That's just the nature of an El Nino. All right. Now, if we take a look at our 10-day forecast, you can go to southernindianaweather.com to get this. Excuse me, folks. Stays pretty cloudy tonight and tomorrow, but the warming trend goes after that. In fact, we're talking 50s by the time you hit Thursday, 60s for the weekend, maybe a slight chance of showers on Sunday, not a big chance at this point before it goes back to seasonal weather after this, but really no major weather systems in sight as far as the eye can see, kind of some milder weather. Now let's just talk about a little bit more about the longer term at this point. Let me just take a couple of minutes and start to explain where we're headed at for the rest of the year potentially here. First off, El Nino is weakening. El Nino, of course, you'll remember, is abnormally warm waters along the equator in the Pacific Ocean. So what we're looking at here is those temperature anomalies going all the way back from December and from November rather, and lasting today. And what you can see is a very much a weakening trend in that. They started out very strong and warm, but as you head into November, December, finally down to February, notice that the waters over here, at least, what you'll notice when I put this back into motion is that the warmer waters start to recede out just a little bit. And there you go. And there you go. And you notice those warmer waters, negative values starting to come into here. Negative values in the sense that they are going down, not truly into La Nina territory yet, but it is going down in a negative way rather than going into the positive way, starting to center out towards our west. So what we can say is El Nino, it's still there in place, and it's still a pretty strong Nino, at least out to our west, but it is weakening at this point. Now, where is it going? Let's take a look at the modeling for that. Modeling indicates that we actually, by the end of the year, may end up going into a La Nina type of setup. La Nina is the exact opposite of El Nino. El Nino, those abnormally warmer waters. La Nina, abnormally cooler waters for there. In fact, if we take a look at exactly where we're at here today, so this is the observation where it was in December. And what this is predicting here is by the time you get down in, this is January, February, March, April, May, so on and so forth. And notice the trend line is in a downward spiral. So this would start your La Nina at -0.5 down here. And notice all the members that by the time you get summer and beyond are here into La Nina category for us. That's important because that would have a big effect on our weather this fall and into next winter. So what could a typical La Nina pattern mean for us? Well, a typical El Nino pattern is we've had a very strong subtropical jet stream, and it's been a split flow where you've got a northern branch of the jet stream and you got a southern branch of the jet stream. In a typical La Nina situation, you end up having, well, it doesn't show it fully on the graphic, but what you have is a northern branch coming in, and you have the Pacific branch coming in. They sort of merge off the coast and become a single branch over us. And so that means typically a weaker jet stream for us. And the reason why, cooler water here, cooler air that meets with the cooler air up here to our north. Less of a temperature difference means there's going to be less of a pressure gradient. That means that it's going to be a weaker, because what creates wind in the jet stream? Wind is created by extreme pressure difference. Pressure difference is created by temperature difference. So if you don't have that temperature difference, you're not going to be able to have that. It's a weaker jet stream under a typical La Nina pattern. And we'll just sort of look at this. What would it be potentially for next winter then if that's the case? Warm and wet is what a typical La Nina brings for us. Now, word of caution, every La Nina is different, just like every El Nino is different. So this is just kind of a typical guideline. It's way too early to be knowing exactly what we're going to have next winter, but just a little bit of a preview for you at this point. That doesn't mean that we couldn't have snow. Certainly we could have some big snows out of this, but just like this winter, La Ninas typically make us a little bit warmer than normal, whereas El Ninos tend to make us a little bit drier than normal around here. Uh, La Ninas tend to make us a little bit wetter than normal around here. Doesn't necessarily mean that will translate to snow. It could just mean more rain events for us than snow events. Well, that's something we'll keep an eye on in coming months, though, folks. It looks like another interesting winter next time headed our way, then, as well. But hey, for now, that's what we'll say. We'll end it here, folks. But we got some nice warm weather coming our way. A little bit boring, not a whole lot going on, but we'll take that. Who knows? Maybe the Euro might be right. Maybe we end up with some of those snow showers as we head later into the month. Maybe the GFS is right, and maybe it ends up staying a little bit more mild. We will know as we head later on into the month as things get closer to time, folks. But one thing's for sure, we'll take it one day at a time. That's it for now, folks. I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite for SouthernIndianaWeather.com. Have a great night, folks. We'll see you on the next long range update.